compelling for people because remember, we discussed this last semester, but as human beings, we have 3 questions. Where do we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? And eschatology provides a story that answers all 3 questions. Why God created us, what our mission on earth is, and what God has planned for the end of the world. Okay? And different traditions will have different eschatologies. And what's important to figure out is, in what aspect do these eschatologies converge? Okay? Converge, meaning a union of these eschatologies. And why is that important? Because it allows you to predict how they will behave. Think of a story as the operating system of a society. And as such, it's a script that they will act out. And if you're able to figure out the different scripts and see how they converge together, where the union of these different scripts are, then you can actually predict how the world will turn out. Okay? All right. So having explained the law, I'm going to go into some theory to help us understand why this works. Okay? All right. So the first thing to understand is something called the universal law of game theory. Okay? And the universal law of game theory states this. Whoever wins a game is able to do this, okay? Mass times energy times coordination. Okay? So these are the 3 things you want to look at to understand how well a player would do in a game. So mass is just the number of people involved on the team, okay? Energy is just how much attention, focus, motivation there is, okay? So think of it as attention or motivation or action, okay? Any of these words will do. But basically, how invested are you in winning the game? And how hard are you willing to work to win the game? And coordination is just the idea of synchronicity. And what I mean by that is, how well do the teammates work together? Okay? And something that you need to appreciate is that the most important thing in winning a game is actually coordination. In fact, I would say it's 4 times more important than just mass. So you can have a lot of people, but if they don't work well together, you're defeated by another team with few people, but they work well together, okay? And then energy is twice as important as mass. All right? So let me give you an example. Let's just say that you're playing a game by yourself. Okay? Maybe for example, you enter a ping pong competition or a chess competition. Well, mass and coordination don't really matter because you don't have any teammates. And so what matters is energy, how motivated you are to win this game. How much time do you put in practice? How much time do you put into studying and improving yourself? How focused are you in winning, okay? All right, so a team sport, well, mass is constant. And so what matters is energy and coordination. How well the team works well together, okay? Now, what's interesting is that there are different ways to improve or increase, augment the energy and coordination, all right? So maybe a leader, okay? So maybe if someone is a really inspiring leader, that will make people much more motivated, and that will allow them to work well together because all they have to do is listen to a leader, okay? The problem with a leader, of course, is that eventually he will die, all right? Then you have a family, okay, blood, okay? They work well together because they all share similar blood, but we cannot account for the differences within this family, okay, the conflict within this family, right? So historically, in the long term, the force that allows teams to beat other teams is the idea of narrative. Okay? Narrative. Or a story. Okay? Why? Because it implants in the minds of all those who believe in the narrative a series of actions that they must take in order to win the game. Okay? So think of it as a script. And in a script, you know what part you play, so you just have to act it out. And that allows for you all to work together to achieve the outcome that you desire. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? And in narrative, the most powerful form of narrative is the idea of eschatology. Because eschatology is a complete script. A complete script in which everyone knows what he or she must do in order to achieve the desired outcome. And eschatology also is able to transcend both time and space, meaning that you can actually spend centuries acting out the script because everyone knows his role anyway, okay? And it can transcend borders as well. You can go beyond ethnic identity and family, okay? So the most powerful mechanism in history is eschatology, right? So what is eschatology? All right, so most religions are similar. Most religions require you to be a good person. Be humble, be kind, be generous. But there are certain aspects of religions that are extreme, okay? And we can call them eschatologies. Okay? So the classic example is the Jewish religion. Okay? In the Jewish religion, if you're what you believe is that you no longer live in Israel because a long time ago, the Israelites pissed off God by disobeying him. God told the Israelites, do not worship false idols. But the Israelites sinned, they disobeyed, so they were kicked out of Jerusalem. And they were forced to wander the earth in the diaspora for centuries. And so what they believe is that they each need to engage in an act of redemption, of humility, of submission, of piety to God if they are to redeem the whole Jewish people. Okay? And when that happens, when they recognize their own limitations, when they recognize how inferior they are to God and submit to God, then God will send the Messiah to redeem them and lead them back to Jerusalem, defeat the enemies of the Jews, bring all the Jews from the diaspora back to Jerusalem, unify the Jewish people, and then build the third temple so that God can come to earth and live with all the Jews and create heaven on earth, okay? That is the Jewish religion that most Jews believe. Okay, like there are a lot of differences, okay, but I'm just trying to simplify it for clarity, okay? But then you have these extremes, fanatics, who have a different eschatology, okay? And these people, we can say, are accelerationists. And their point is that this is fine, but it's way too slow. And it dissolves us of individual responsibility.